The best advice that I was given at drama school, hands down, is that we are not sending rockets to the moon. We are not negotiating peace treaties. We are not curing cancer. As actors, we have the privilege of just playing make-believe and dress up. That's what we do as a job. So then the question is, why do we take it far too seriously? Now, I say that this was the best advice that I got at drama school, but it wasn't until a few years after graduating that it actually sunk in, because I was one of those people that took the whole thing and myself way too seriously. I was way too intense, I couldn't see the joy in anything, and what that ended up doing was just alienating me from the other actors that I was in a group with. I became one of those people that just ended up being a bit of a fun sponge, and nobody wants to be around a fun sponge. So, because when you take the whole thing far too seriously, you run the risk of becoming really bitter when things don't go right and really arrogant when things do go right. And either way, it is not the best way to navigate the industry and your chosen path as an actor. Taking yourself far too seriously in a rehearsal, in an audition, in a performance can have really rubbish consequences. It hinders creativity, you aren't as open and collaborative with your fellow actors as you should be, and you're constantly thinking about how you're being valued and perceived by others. Now at this stage, it's worth saying that you should be taking the work seriously, but not taking yourself seriously. We need to make the differentiation between the two, because the work demands respect. It demands time and acknowledgement. And we honour the script through truly earnest, investigative character development and exploration and discussion. And we should never be disregarding the details of a text with the view of just not taking it very seriously. It is the methods that we employ to honour the script. That is the thing that sets it apart. That is the thing that is the shift from taking yourself too seriously to taking yourself not so seriously. Taking yourself seriously in a rehearsal situation can manifest as blocking offers from creatives and other actors. And this is often because you think that that choice, that offer, is incorrect, or worse still, that it is silly and it will expose you as being equally silly and put you into a vulnerable situation that you don't want to be in. Because if you were so fearful of being perceived as silly, that is a massive telltale sign that you are taking yourself far too seriously. Because as actors, being curious and being explorative in the moment, you're always running the risk of looking a little bit silly, of things not working, of you failing in an attempt to find something that is creatively truthful. You're not going to be able to get that end result if you are playing it safe all of the time, if you are so concerned with how you are being viewed and how you are being perceived that you refuse to put yourself out there because it might ruin your street cred. This is the biggest no-no when it comes to creative exploration. And what it does is that it turns a rehearsal environment from a place of freedom and exploration and curiosity into one of judgment and restriction. It's an energy that rubs off on the entire group, on the entire ensemble. And it just takes one person to be taking themselves far too seriously for it to permeate out into the group. It's actually quite selfish. So you actually need to ask yourself the question, which environment would I rather be part of? One of judgment and restriction, or one of freedom and exploration and joy? Thing is, we all need to remember that it is called a play for a reason. So we need to find play. Now I want you to cast your mind back to when you were a child, or even observing children playing. Their concentration and their focus is so intense. They play with such commitment and intention that I envy it. I think it's fantastic. It's a beautiful thing to just observe. But on the flip side of that is that their play is unguarded, it's unstructured, and it is free and open to possibilities. They take on offers and suggestions and stimulus from loads of different places, and they roll with the punches. And there's just an unending amount of curiosity and joy that goes along with it. Because what children do is that they take the work seriously, but they don't take themselves seriously. It doesn't even cross their mind that they will be perceived as silly, that they will be perceived as doing something wrong, that they are open and vulnerable to judgment, because they're just getting on with it. They're just investigating, they're just discovering, they are just having a great time. And as actors, we need to be striving to develop this as a practice. Now I say all of this because oftentimes when we go out into the industry and we start to do this professionally, it is a really tricky thing to maintain. And it's a really tricky thing to separate ourselves from the work, because we want to take the work seriously but not ourselves too seriously. But if the two are very much conjoined, it's really difficult to separate them. And believe me, this is something that I have struggled with personally in the past, because as professionals, it often comes from this idea or this view of scarcity, that there just isn't enough work out there for every single actor. So the competition tends to be incredibly fierce. And if the competition is fierce and you're not bringing your A game, i.e. you are not taking it incredibly seriously and working yourself to the bone and doing this and doing that, then you are not going to be worthy of it and you are not actually going to get the result that you want. But what this can often tip over into is that the intensity and the focus gets to the point where you have to have this, that is so intense that you take it so incredibly seriously that it restricts you and cuts you off from connecting to others. You start to see the work as a chore, as something that isn't something that you want to do, because it has all of these negative connotations that go along with it. You stop seeing the joy, you stop creating, you stop being curious because you were so fixated and focused on the end result, which is getting the job. When in fact, the absolute flip side of it is what people are actually wanting to see. The openness, the curiosity, the collaboration, the enjoyment of the whole thing. That's what people want to work with, not the other thing. So again, asking yourself the question, if you were sat on an audition panel or if you were part of an ensemble, who would you want to be working with? The person that is so fearful of being seen as anything other than strictly professional and really, really good at what they do? Or someone who is able and willing joyfully to throw caution to the wind, to create, to get curious, to try things out and develop a safe environment with which you can actually do that and fail a little bit, free of judgment? Because it has taken me a good few years to get to this point where I'm able to say the work is incredibly important and needs to be taken seriously. But me, I get to just be silly. I get to make a fool of myself. I get to enjoy this idea of exploring and creating, not knowing if it's going to work or not, but that I'm not going to be judged in accordance with that. And even if I am judged in accordance with that, it's really not that big of a deal. I hope you enjoyed this teeny tiny video that I made this week. And if you did, just make sure that you click like and that you subscribe to the channel and send this along to any actor friends that you have as well. And remember to shoot any questions or comments below. I'd love to hear from you. But until next time, thanks so much. Bye.